would like to welcome everybody here to these final presentations of the Ecata Aerospace Business Integration Course 2013. My name is Damien Vogt and I'm the local supervisor at KTH. And it's a pleasure to have not just the 17 delegates here, but also the customers, as well as the Ecata board, the Ecata chairman, as well as the Ecata's person here. We will now listen to the presentations of this year's ABI course. As you might know, the current setup is such that we have a common project called an umbrella project. So there will first be an introduction, a general introduction given by Michel Bousquet from Ecata. Thereafter, we will listen to an introduction into the umbrella thinking from Mark Kehoe from BAE Systems. And thereafter, the floor is completely up to the delegates to dispose. Some practical issues. We are broadcasting this event. This means that if you would like to ask any question, I will give you a microphone. So just please raise your hand. I will come with the microphone to you, and then I would like you to speak. Another aspect is I would also like everybody to switch off the mobile phones. So we would not like to interact here with the broadcasting then in a negative way. So with these words said, again, I would like to welcome everybody, and I would like to give the word to Michel here. Please.
Thank you, Damien. So just a few words. My name is Michel Bousquet. I'm a professor at ISAE in Toulouse, and I am the administrator of the Ecata consortium, composed, as you know, of 7 top-level industrial companies in the field of aerospace in Europe, and also the 7 top-level universities in aerospace engineering. That program is aiming at enhance the leadership capabilities of young professionals in the company when managing programs in international intercultural level framework. So today we will listen to the presentation of the work made by 17 young professionals that spend 10 weeks out of the last 3 months working on their project, MTP. Then I think that most I was willing to say, and I will leave the floor to our colleague Mark, that will call about the umbrella.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. For those who don't know me, my name is Mark Kehoe. I work in the combat air portion of BAE Systems. I thought I'd just start by explaining what an MTP is and what an MTP umbrella is. Every year, 4 or 5 teams are put together as part of Ecata's ABI program. They consist of 4 or 5 individuals, each from a different nationality or company, so we have a nice mix-up. And they're all given a project to do over that 10-week in 3-month period. Traditionally, when the course started, those projects were selected more by the companies against a particular interest that they had at any one time. In recent years, it was felt that it would be more expedient if actually they all operated under a theme. So that is what we did. And in order to get that theme well integrated, we created an umbrella MTP. This is not a 5th multinational project. This is simply the glue that brings it all together. And hopefully it creates a more collaborative working environment and a more focus for all of the individual teams as they do their projects. It does, however, put an additional burden on the individuals who are working in those teams, as I'm sure they'll tell you about when they get an opportunity. It means there's a 5th customer to deal with and a 5th set of project management to do. But eventually it comes up with a better output. That's what an MTP is about. This year, the theme is right first time. To explain a little bit about it, we live in very difficult times. Not just because there's a banking crisis and right the way across the Western world we have financial difficulties at government and individual levels, but because of globalization. 20-25 years of globalization are now coming to a level of maturity. What started off as cheap t-shirts in China is now a final assembly line for making Airbus A320s in China. Lots of other countries like that are now in a position to start challenging the traditional work that large high-tech aerospace companies used to do. What that means is more competition, and more competition means fighting for the customers. Right first time is all about a customer perception. What is it I want? Now, I won't go into any more details particularly because the MTP umbrella team will tell you about it. But we asked them to think, what does right first time and to whom? A pilot, a procurer, a second-tier supplier, companies like my own. And in terms of that, what does it mean? Give us a better understanding so that we can actually frame what it is we're going to do when we say to people, we're going to do it right first time. So without further ado, I'll invite the Umbrella MTP to come down and tell you what they've done. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. My name is Florent Bonneville. I'm part of the Umbrella Board, which is made of 4 people. Edith, Fabien and Alexander, and myself. So it's my pleasure to welcome you on board this Umbrella presentation, and I hope you will enjoy it. So basically, this is the agenda we will go through for the whole afternoon. Of the Umbrella project. So Mark has said a lot of it already, but since we had only, well, let's say 2 main topics to deal with. First, find a common definition of right first time, common and shared among all the delegates of this year's Ecata course. The second objective was to ensure that all the MTPs were interacting all together in order so that we will be able to provide you with a full set of recommendations to reach the right first time philosophy in your company. So then we will have a presentation, a 20-minute presentation, which will be a common session about project management and team building, about what has been achieved within each of the MTP. I guess this is the first year that this project management and team building stuff will be presented in a common presentation. This has been decided and motivated by in order to save time during the whole afternoon, and also to secure a bigger, let's say, interaction between the MTPs. Then we will go through each MTP presentation, 40 minutes each. They will secure a slot for question and answer at the end of each of these presentations. And finally, the Umbrella Board will be back on stage for a 30-minute conclusion and wrap-up in order to provide you with a set of common recommendations coming out of the whole presentation that you will see this afternoon. Those recommendations will be dealing with project management, team building, and of course, technical recommendation. One last thing before I hand the mic to my colleagues. If you have any question about the umbrella introduction or the project management and team building stuff, please save it for the end, and we'll be happy to answer your question at the end. Thank you very much. Edith?
Okay. The umbrella introduction goes ahead. Right first time. Right first time was, as already explained, this year's linking element between the different MTP topics, and the Ecata delegates, as well as their MTP customers, contacts, and colleagues contributed to find an answer and commonly agreed definition of right the first time and what does it mean to various different stakeholders. Furthermore, a question was put on how industry can actually improve to meet the customer requirements, whether they are implicit or explicit expressed. So this is the challenge. Here is our right first time common definition, the result of the first part of our work that we came up with, and it was finally agreed by all involved stakeholders. Right first time means the ability of a system to fulfill the subjective, objective expectations and requirements expressed by various stakeholders during the entire life cycle whilst improving the market standing of a company. Key elements of this definition are meeting the requirements and expectations of the customers, and secondly, improving the market standing of the company that owns the project. So it's not fully complete now. We also have a more commentary statement on the definition, which includes crucial prerequisites that we found are to be met to achieve right the first time. Stakeholder analysis, okay. Bit of confusion, but what does it actually mean to a lot of the already mentioned various stakeholders? So we did a kind of first stakeholder identification, and in the middle of the group of stakeholders we clearly have the aerospace and defense product manufacturer, which accordingly to his internal structure can be subdivided in a lot of stakeholders to the project. Furthermore, we have the suppliers, which deal with the equipments. We also have in the military case co-contractors, e.g. for the engine or for missiles, which have the specificity that they hold an own contract with the customer. We would have air traffic control, air traffic management for stakeholding also in the project, as well as the airports. We have authorities and regulatory bodies, not only with regard to flight safety, but also with regard to environmental protection. The customers, we can differentiate in civil and military case. In the civil case, we named it airlines, but it could also be an individual owning a bizjet. And according to their internal structure, they can also be subdivided into different stakeholders. Finally, as kind of end user, we would have the passengers that fly with the aircraft. In the military case, the customer would be the nation. However, the government pays in the end what the MOD and the Air Force staff has specified and required, and the unit has to fly. In a more international environment, in the military case, we could also have non-governmental organizations, either within the alliances, for instance NATO, or as an overarching body like the agency OCCAR. And finally, we could also consider the enemies as kind of stakeholders when it comes to mission success. The stakeholders we could identify and that we dealt with during the MTPs you can see now on the screen, which is basically the core of the military and civilian customer side.
So this little guy in the middle of the slide is industry, and as we have seen during the previous slide, we have to deal with a lot of different stakeholders. We have the same definition about what should be right first time, but they might have different perspective on that. Indeed, as an industrial, you might be facing some customer, for sure, that you will pay for developing some products, looking for profitability, maturity, operability. You will have also to satisfy your shareholders of the company. We will seek for profitability and sustainability of their business. But then the end user will come in the loop with, for instance, flight crew that would like to have some ergonomics, ease of use. Same for the line mechanics who would like to have some kind of advanced technology in terms of electronic documentation, for example. The pilots with fancy new technologies like iPad in the cockpit. The passenger, we would like to have some cheap tickets, space. Also the end user could be, for the military system, the military guys, pilots. The government of a country will also have a look at it. Right first time means growth, employment, military ops success. That has also to be taken into account. The global perception of your product, that will be visible after its entry into service by a lot of people coming from a lot of different areas. And of course, you will have to deal with some regulation bodies such as the airworthiness authorities. So that concludes the global panorama of stakeholders we have to manage to define this right first time philosophy.
Within the Right First Time project, the question is now, how does the MTP work in this project and could contribute to giving some recommendation to the Right First Time? The different projects are spread all along the life cycle of the product. So we have MTP1, that is preliminary design and validation, that is investigation on processes to right first time. MTP2, that is model verification and validation in the development of complex system. PBS, so product breakdown structure process. We have MTP3, that is the perfect anticipation of equipment by specification and testing, that is more located in the in-service of the product life cycle. And MTP4, that is also located in the in-service part, that is a blocker to design for through life. We have identified some interactions between the different MTPs. For example, we could have MTP3 and 4 that could give some recommendations on in-service and end-of-life to the MTP1 and MTP2 projects in order to achieve right first time. You would now have the presentation of the different MTPs with all the recommendations they have done and work they have done, and we will at the end come back to the conclusion of the umbrella, sharing our view on the recommendation we could provide to you on the different subjects that have been covered this year. As a starting point of the MTP contribution to the right first time, we would like to present to you everything that has been done on project management and team building. As said before, we have tried to merge this year everything that has been done on the project management and on the team building. So we are 4 of our MTPs that would present to you project management and team building.
Okay. As first, we present our agenda for this part. Our agenda took some point: team seminars, project organization, risk management, scheduling, project performance analysis, communication plan, and team health metrics. As first, team seminars. Team seminars, we had the opportunity to attend some seminars in very beautiful place, a little bit cold but very beautiful place, as you can see in the picture. And from each of them, we have the possibility to bring some lesson learned to bring at home to better understand the differences between us as delegates. In the first, held in the Sandam, we initial position our MTPs team using a tool such as team charter and SWOT analysis. That was very, very useful to try to initial understanding within the team. Then we had the opportunity to go through several games that to better understand the initial team dynamics between us, because it was very in the beginning of the project. Supported by assessment provided us by Phil Davis, such as Bell-Bean test and MBTI test, self-awareness, and we discovered something more about us differences. After this analysis, we did several activities within the MTPs to improve our team building level. In the second, held in Lovic by Simon Green, we exposed ourselves to the other, and we improve our interaction better in a group. In this seminar, we spent a lot of time together, speaking about who we are, our values, and also our weakness, how we can improve our weakness better in a group. working in a team, a multinational team, and also how to be recognized as a leader. We learn also the two very important concepts that we discovered after that was very important concept. One was about the, how we can say, the reformulation, because sometimes coming from different countries, sometimes it was difficult to understand the first time what the other people means. The second part, the second concept very important that we bring at home from this part of seminars was linked to different way to speak. We learned that there are several, at least two, context, high context, low context. So it means that French, Italian guy speaking in a way that could be quite different compared to German English guy. And also this point was very useful to better interact within the group. Later seminar held by Florence Perron concentrated on cultural preconception and establishing in performing team. Also was valuable to think about what we learn in this Ecata course and what we bring at home at the end of the Ecata course. Now, Luigi speaks about the project organization and the risk management.
So, good afternoon, everybody. Related to the project organization, all the MTPs decided to organize their activity in order to identify the work breakdown structure. Sorry, it doesn't work. The work breakdown structure, the cost breakdown structure, and the organization breakdown structure. The interactions between these three basic requirements created our NTP's project organization. Three NTPs decided to organize their project activities strictly oriented to the project deliverables. I mean the teamwork report, the project management report, and of course the technical report. As you can see in the slide, this organization allowed the teams to monitoring better the interaction between each sub-work package and the main work package that is the deliverable. And another, on top right, you can see an example of an RASCI matrix used by some NTPs in order to identify their roles and the and the responsibility for each activities, and of course helps that teams to manage in a better way the activities throughout the project. And the fourth MTPs decided to adopt a different organizational concept, so they decided to create a linear structure, and this organization was sequentially task-oriented. And both of these organizations were reflecting an efficient management approach thanks to this, the Ecata project. That was a strange nature of this program. And now about the risk management. Of course, all the MTPs give the right importance to the identification and to the management of the risks. So each of us created a risk register. Here you can see just an example. And related to the identification and the analysis of each risk or the main risks, we used two different approaches, a bottom-up approach and a top-down approach. Related to the bottom-up approach was the most classical approach. Three NTPs decided to use it, so they identified and analyzed the main risks and tried to identify the contingency needed to manage this kind of risk, and then the total amount of these risks or this contingency was added on top of the baseline budget. And the top-down approach, just one MTP decided to use this kind of approach thanks to the synthetic nature of the Ecata project, and so they decided to identify a percentage on top of the baseline budget. And then related to the criticality of the main risks, they decided to deploy this contingency on all of these risks. On bottom right of this slide, you can see a typically risk matrix. This matrix was used from all of us, to identify the level of the criticality of each risk that you can see top of the slide. And of course, we use this kind of matrix throughout the project in order to manage and to take in consideration all the risks and to eventually moved some contingency throughout the project. I mean, if you identify that the risks could be considered closed, you can we decided to move the contingency on another risk, or to say just there is a saving on top of our budget at the end of the project. So now I'm going to introduce Federico, and then going to explain us our MTP's schedule. Thanks.
Okay, just a few words about the MTP schedule, because all NTPs, use the same schedule by task. But just to put in evidence that we used two different approaches between our NTPs. One was more common, using the Excel file to set up the schedule, and just one NTP decided to use a project as tool to set up the project, to schedule the project. Two different approaches was because the first one, using Excel file, we want to use a common tool to share the same file with all the delegates. The other approach was to use the Ecata as a laboratory to try to improve it, to learn something new. Could be project for someone of us. So we use this time to Ecata to try to improve and learn a common tool. As a drawbacks, or as a drawbacks for the two kind of approach, we can say that we spend maybe more time to set up well project, because it was too difficult to set up, and to respect compared to Excel file was very easy. But in opposite, to take it out some output from the Excel files, or to modify our scheduling when some activity could be baby slightly delayed or moving for some reason, was very, very difficult. So we have two different approaches, but the same activities for all the MTPs. Now Marcus will speak about the performance analysis.
So on the next slides, I want to give you impression what we have done for the project performance analysis. So in order to monitor and control our projects across all MTPs, the earned value management method has been adapted. Of course, it's the classical method for projects to keep your projects under control. As you can see on these two examples, both of the methods, means the discrete and also non-discrete method, has been used across the MTPs. The decision to go either for the one or the other method was driven through different aspects from each MTP. It might be quite obvious in a project like in the Ecata course, with that scope and with that time frame, to say, okay, it's much more appropriate to go for the discrete method because of the scope and the nature of this project, and probably gives you also more objective indication of the project status itself. But nevertheless, some decisions was also driven by some MTPs to say we want to use the non-discrete method in order to take the opportunity of Ecata to experiment with different approaches, especially different approaches which you're not using in your daily work. So at the end of the day, I think the important thing was to really find the right level to spend what you are spending in terms of effort in creating and updating these tools compared to the outcome. And we can say that each MTP this year found the right level to really get to spend the right level of effort in the project management to get to really get the control under the project and to have the right level of outcome. So in a further step, I would like to show you this example here, where you in a quite easy graph display your SBI versus your CBI, means your schedule versus your cost performance, which easily give you indication is your project on track or not. Means is your SBI CBI plot around the center, means ideally equal 1, your project is on time and budget. So it was a simple and effective tool to display the cost versus your schedule and give you the indication where your project actually is, and especially also the track of the cost of your project. So it was also a key element to see are your actions or corrective actions which have you taken for your project are really working? Is our trend okay? Are we going in the good direction? And was we able to recover our situation? So as soon as we established this tool, it was a really good thing in the customer dialogue, because it was easy to maintain, easy to understand, and it was very fruitful in the customer dialogue to give the customer a quick indication what is the actual project situation, what is our trend. So on the next slide, I want to hand over to Fred.
Thank you, Marcus. So in addition to the classical project management tool described by my colleagues a few minutes ago, the customer was also key for the success of our project. In this slide, you can identify two major steps. The first one, which was to do some regular meeting with our customer in order to define a list of requirements, to define some expectation needed by the customer in order to find an agreement on them. It has been done through a statement of work by all the team. Then the second step afterwards was to monitor the follow-up of the project, and eventually to adapt some requirements from the customer. So this slide gives you an overview of our works from the beginning of Ecata to the end, so beginning in January in Stockholm and the end today with you in Stockholm again. So each team has implemented a communication plan. So first of all, the customer satisfaction was key in order to ensure if we were on the right way or not with our customer. It had been done through a survey with the customer satisfaction. The exchanges were formalized or not with our customer, depending on the relationship we had all together. So either a simple minute of meeting, the ECM procedure, 4-box, mails, or simple phone call. And each team put a different organization in front of their customer, so either one focal point or the whole group. At this moment, it's quite difficult to say if a method was better than another, since I guess we all achieved our objectives. In addition, and following the team seminar we had at the beginning of our training and introduced by Federico a few minutes ago, each team has implemented a team health metrics. It has been done either through a check-in, check-out process at the beginning and at the end of each workshop altogether, or through surveys filled regularly by the members of the teams. This was the opportunity to exchange, invite our team all together on our feelings, expectations, feedbacks to others, and also to open some discussion. Around that also, some metrics were built in order to have a clearer view of our project, of our team mood, and to see the trend. At this moment, once again, it's quite difficult to say if a method was better than another. Most important for us is that everybody took time to take care about each other and to make sure that we were all involved into our project. The final aim of that was to make sure we were able to achieve our objectives, our expectation, to use the Ecata as a laboratory to track some lessons learned, and also to achieve a high level of performance within our team and for our project. Now I'm finishing this pitch with this slide, with sum up all the tools we have implemented during these 3 months. And now I'm pleased, and it's an honor for me also to introduce the second part of this presentation, where each MTP team will present their own work, their technical outcome, and also the way they could have handled their projects thanks to these tools. And maybe it's also, Damien, you will say first break now, or not, I don't know. So it's also an honor for me to introduce the first break.